Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar all about setting up your classroom for success. My name is Holly and there's a few staff that will be online today answering any questions or sharing any links of resources or blogs that I might talk about throughout the webinar. Now, at the end of last year, we sort of brainstormed what topics we might include for these webinars, thinking about back to school and what sorts of things teachers might need assistance with, or some hints and tips or guidance. And setting up your classroom for success was sort of one of the main topics that we spoke about. Of course, the school year for 2022 is going to be another interesting one where educators are going to have to be flexible and agile like we have been for the last couple of years. So all across Australia, there's possibly going to be different sorts of starts to the year, whether it be a delayed start date or the talk of remote learning or a bit of both face-to-face learning and remote learning, who knows? But setting up your classroom is something that you'll eventually have to do. And I'm not sure if many of you are on Instagram and have seen some of the popular reels, but one of the sounds that comes to mind is that song, Can We Skip to the Good Bit? Well, we're skipping to the good bit. We're going to look at one of the most exciting things for the start of the school year, and that's setting up your very own classroom. Now, whether you're a graduate teacher or an experienced teacher who's perhaps changed year levels, or perhaps you're just looking for something a little bit different for setting up your classroom this year, hopefully this guide of sort of what I used to go through when setting up my classroom might help all of you. As I said earlier, we've got some staff online who will be answering questions. If you do have a question, if you could just pop it in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, I believe it is. That way any other members that are online can also see what your question is, because that might also help them out as well, and they can also answer your questions. So feel free to jump in and look at some of those questions and answers that will be popping up in that function. Just make sure I've covered all of the... Yeah, so as I said, my name is Holly. I've got a background in early years education. Been working at TeachStarter for almost 7 years. So bringing teachers hints and tips for things I used to do in the classroom and also what I've learnt throughout my time here at TeachStarter is definitely something that I really enjoy doing. All right, let's get started. So yes, as I said, this is my guide to setting up your classroom. I remember first walking in to my first ever classroom. For the few weeks prior, I'd been collecting all the goodies and all the things and sort of thinking in my mind how my classroom might look and getting super excited about the different areas and the displays. And I remember walking into the classroom and instantly it smelt gross. You know, that smell where a classroom has been closed up for 6 to 7 weeks. So I remember first opening up the windows just to letting in some, I guess, a nicer smell, just to make it air out a little bit. And then I think I spent about 2 to 3 hours moving my desks around, lots of different ways. And then the pile of things I'd brought in had stayed in that pile in the classroom. And I remember walking out of the classroom, going home and thinking, how on earth am I going to make this look like a welcoming classroom? I know that, you know, it was at a state school. It was a very old classroom. You sort of had to work with what you had. And I think I'm hoping this guide will help you, because I didn't have a plan. I had no plan of attacking that first year, and I don't think I learnt very much then the second or third year, because I think I did the exact same thing. So hopefully this guide will help you out, and hopefully you won't feel as overwhelmed like I did when I first walked into the classroom on that first day. So throughout this webinar, I've divided it up into 5 sections, and these are sort of the 5 steps that I went through when I was setting up my classroom. So the first thing is draw it out. So if you've been into the classroom, sort of know sort of what size it is. If you haven't, this is something you might have to do it when you walk into the classroom, but draw out how you might want your classroom to look. You could do this beforehand and then sort of reassess as you get into your classroom and see the space that you've got, but literally draw it out. Number 2 is consider your space. So this is your space where you'll keep all of your teaching tools and resources. The third thing is to then think of seating and lighting. So just looking at the classroom, what's going to be the best arrangement for your the student desks and the lighting. The fourth one there is sorting, containment and labels. So that's just sorting all of the stuff. There's always so much stuff in a classroom. So just making sure that you've got systems in place for that so that you can try and keep your classroom as organised and neat as possible. And the last thing that I would always do is classroom displays, purposeful classroom displays. I know that's sort of the most exciting thing, is setting up your classroom displays. I know I really enjoyed that. But I did very quickly learn during my time teaching that you need to have your classroom set out with the desks and everything first before you then work out where your displays will go. I remember the first year I set up my classroom, I did all of the displays first. And then the desks, how I had the desks arranged, and actually the displays weren't really visible for the students where they were sitting. So that's why I will always do the classroom displays last, so that they're purposeful and in an area or space where the students, it's easily accessible to the students. Okay, let's get started into these different sections. So number 1 is draw it out. So as I said earlier, this is literally mapping out how your classroom is going to look. Where's the whiteboard going to be? Where are the main sections going to go? Things that you might want to consider here is, what furniture do you have available to you? So looking at how many shelves you've got, have you got enough student desks and chairs, making sure that you've got everything that you need to set up your classroom. I know in state schools it's kind of like you sort of have to beg and borrow. My first class, I remember I had all sorts of different size desks and different coloured chairs, which just did my head in. I always liked to have the same coloured chairs. I know that's a little bit goofy, but I remember doing a call out saying, I need 3 more blue chairs. I've got 3 green ones I can swap with you. And I know that a lot of the teachers thought I was crazy, but that was just my thing. I liked it to all have the same coloured chairs. And of course, the height of the desks are really important for the age of the students that you're going to have. So just making sure that you've got all of those things ready to go. Consider the space you have. We're not all blessed with huge classrooms. That would be amazing if we had some of the, double classrooms that some teachers have had. I've certainly had the smallest of small classrooms, and I've also had some double classrooms as well. So just consider the space you have, and obviously the things that you're wanting to set up in your classroom, they might have to be slightly adapted based on your space. When you're drawing it out, consider the physical flow of the classroom. So if you're in an early years classroom, where will they be sitting for teacher instruction on carpet time? Is there then enough space for them to walk to their desks? Is there enough space for them to walk around their desks? So just considering that aspect, you don't want it to be too crowded. And when you are drawing it out, thinking of the bigger areas first. So your book corners, calm down areas, your teacher station, so where's your area going to be? Small group working areas, and obviously for the early years, a nice carpet area for them to sit down on. Obviously, if you've got a smaller classroom and you start drawing this out and you realise that it's going to be too crowded with all of these bigger sections in, you might just have to be flexible with those bigger areas. So for example, rather than a calm down area, maybe you've got a calm down box. So a box of goodies, of things that the students can go to if they do need that sort of calming down, those calming down strategies. Book corners. Doesn't necessarily need to be in a book corner. Maybe it's just a smaller area at the back of the classroom, and I've got some photos of some really cool ideas that I'll share in the next slide. So yeah, it's just considering the space, the furniture you've got available to you, and really mapping out your plan of attack for how the classroom is going to be set up. It might look slightly different by the end of it, but at least you've got an idea of where you want things to go. Definitely makes it easier, and you won't then spend 3 hours moving desks around in all sorts of different configurations and then not really getting that far with your classroom set up. Okay, here are some really fantastic photos, which I've got from some fantastic Instagram teachers. Obviously, these areas are you can see quite big. So that top left-hand photo, this one here, this teacher's been very clever and used some shelves to create the space. Obviously, she's got a lot of space in the classroom and can do that. So that's just sort of showing how you can be clever with the furniture and setting up a separate little section. Again, if you don't have this space, you could just put the shelving at the back of the classroom. A nice little chair that she's got here in a basket with some things in it, or a bean bag just at the back of the classroom, creating a little bit of space where kids can go and read. This one on the top right-hand corner is another clever way of when you've got a smaller classroom, what you could do. So these storage compartments, putting baskets in the bottom, you could put the books in there and then some pillows on the top for the students to sit on. Having a carpet to sort of create that space also helps. This one on the bottom is super cute as well, and she's used a little teepee there to create a little area that kids could go in to read. Again, you could, obviously this space is quite big, but you could use a little teepee at the back of your classroom to create that space. And again, on the bottom right-hand corner here, it's similar to the top one, where it's using one of those storage compartments, and we've got, you can get them pretty cheaply from cheap shops to put the books in, and she's got the carpet set up there to create that space and some pillows on top. So yeah, some really clever ways of creating a little book area. My tip there is head to Facebook Marketplace. Certainly, we don't want to spend all of our money as teachers, but we do like to create a space and create our classrooms so it is inviting for our students. So I've seen actually just recently, I saw a teacher put a post on our local buy, swap, sell page saying she was a local teacher and she was looking for some carpet. I think she was actually setting up a book area, some carpet, some pillows, and a little storage compartment. And so many people had all these things that they would give her for free, and they were basically brand new. So yeah, just put up a little post. I know some schools can be quite strict with what you're bringing into the classroom as well, so just make sure that that's okay with your school's guidelines. But certainly don't go out and buy brand new things. There's lots and lots of ways that you can get some of those items given to you for free. Okay, the next thing that I would do is consider the space. So this is the space where you're going to have all of your tools and resources so that you can do your day-to-day job. Okay, so the number one point there I've got there is to desk or not to desk. This is always a very, not controversial, but you've sort of got teachers that love their desk and some teachers that are happy to get rid of their desk. So just work out who you are, how you work, how is the classroom going to be run, and would a desk be the best option? If you've got a smaller classroom, maybe doing away with the desk creates more space. Definitely check out Teacher is Happy on Instagram. She's done a YouTube video about converting to a standing desk. So obviously it depends on your school and whether you've got budget to get those standing desks, but it's definitely an option to look at if you do have a smaller classroom. I do have a blog. I'll get one of the staff members to put a link as well to a blog where I talk about to desk or not to desk and just talk about the benefits of both. And I do link to the Teacher is Happy YouTube video in there about a standing desk. So one of the staff members will share that in the comments section right now. Think about how you'll organise your paperwork. Of course, as teachers, we have so much paper that ends up on our desk, and can't guarantee that by the end of the day you're going to have a pile of paperwork on your desk. But if you've got a system and a place for each of those different elements of paperwork to go, it definitely makes it a lot easier to keep track and organise and tidy up your desk at the end of the day, rather than just going, oh my gosh, it's a mess, I just can't even deal with it right now, I'm leaving. think about storage solutions for your stationery and your student files. So obviously there's certain things that you're going to need to collect, lots of paperwork you'll have to collect for student work. Are you going to have a filing cabinet? Do you have access to a filing cabinet? I've seen some really clever uses of a dishwash rack, and the teachers have actually used manila folders labelled with the student names. And they just have that on their desk, and it makes it actually really easy because it's accessible and you can put the student work in there, and it sort of reminds you to put it in there as well. Obviously confidential things can't go in there because they will be on your desk, but that's definitely something to think about as a way if you don't have a filing cabinet. Where will students place all their work when it gets marked? This is a big thing that's going to happen. You're going to end up with a pile of marking to do, like we always do. And it's often, particularly in the early years classroom, it's often big scrapbooks and it can take up quite a lot of space. Have a spot where it goes, and setting up these routines will make it a lot easier for students to know where to put certain things when they're finished with them. And then I've just put a little bit down there saying have an organised space. Having an organised space will help you have a clear mind. And I know, I've been there. Your desk is the first that usually gets super messy with kids just chucking all sorts of things on there. But if you have systems in place and certain places where things go, it makes it a lot easier. Another thing I did want to say as well, if you do set up a teacher station rather than a desk, so a place where you can go put all of your resources and so forth, some teachers say they don't like that the kids can have it's easily accessible to the students. So I have seen where teachers have put sort of masking tape, like a box around that section, and the students know they can't go within that box. So that's another way that you can sort of get away from students having access to all of the resources and the things that is meant to be for you and for your teaching. Okay, I've just got a few little, I guess, teacher hacks, which I used to do to try and stop all that paperwork heading to your desk. So this clothes peg thing, I actually just got this recently for this photo from my local cheap shop, but you can get them anywhere. I think you can get them from Kmart and Target and all those sorts of places. But a great thing to store spare notes, spare worksheets, and to keep them off your desk. With students being absent, and I think this year there's probably going to be a lot of that happening. It's just a great place where you can hang all of those spare things, and when the students have had a day off, the next day they come in and they can go straight to that section and have a look at the worksheets or the notes that they may have missed. So again, it's a sort of a storage solution, but also a practical classroom management tool as well. This is another great thing that I did every single year. I learnt it from my prac teacher actually, and it definitely was a lifesaver for me. So sort your daily worksheets and activities in drawers. You can get these from Officeworks. I think I've seen them at Kmart as well. I love a bit of Kmart shopping, but I've just used some tray labels and I printed them 2 to a page, and it fits beautifully there. So I'll get one of the staff members to share the tray labels collection in the comments as well, so you can have a look through those. But I would always do my planning on a Thursday and then have all my printing, worksheets, activities, everything ready, organised and put into these for the following week. This is also great if you have to have a day off for relief teachers when they come in. If it's a Wednesday, for example, you say go to the Wednesday drawer, it's got all the activities and worksheets in there ready to go. So that just means you don't have that pile of photocopying sitting on your desk, it's neatly in these drawers. Another tip, of course, we've seen these all over Instagram and so forth, some very, very clever teachers who are jazzing these drawers up, but you can get them from Bunnings, I'm pretty sure. It just sorts all those bits and bobs that often end up on your desk or in your top drawer if you have drawers in your desk, and it also makes it easily accessible if you quickly need to grab your whistle, or you need some extra staples, or quickly need to get a Band-Aid. It's all those like little bits and bobs that you collect as a teacher, but it's all sorted nicely in some drawers. So that's another teacher hack there for you, for your teacher area. All right. So we've covered the plan, we've drawn the plan of how we want our classroom to be set up. We've thought about our teacher station and thought about how that's going to be set up and how that's going to help with the day-to-day running of the classroom. Now let's look at seating and lighting. Now, seating and lighting is super, super crucial, and I'm going to go over seating first. Obviously, finding classroom seating that suits the space and the students in your class is always going to be a work in progress. I don't know how many times I changed around seating depending on the students that I had in the classroom. I'm not sure if you've seen that meme, which has it's like a mathematical equation trying to work out who to sit, why I should sit this student with this student, or what's going to be the best configuration for the kids and my class. So by all means, I'm not saying set up your desks and leave it like that for the whole year, because no doubt you will change it throughout the year. But just have a think about whether you're going to use traditional seating, flexible seating, or a bit of both. Also, you're sort of confined with what you've got in your classroom as well. I know that traditionally I just had the old school rectangle desks, but some of you might have access to some better quality desks with some slightly different shapes and all that. So looking at what you've got and sort of deciding what you think is going to work for the space. Obviously thinking about the age of your students and what they'll be doing the most at their desks. So will they be doing more independent work, or in your classroom will they be doing a lot of small group work? That will then help you determine what seating layout is going to be best for your classroom. And obviously I've put down there, if it doesn't work, change it. As I said earlier, if it's not working, you can change it around. The desks aren't bolted into the ground. Trial different seating arrangements and see what works for your class. I'm going to go over a few different ways you can lay out desks. It is using the traditional style desks, so apologies if you don't have this sort of style of desk. But the different sorts of shapes, I'm going to talk through what they're going to help best within a classroom. So hopefully that will sort of help you as well if you've got different sort of different desks. I have written a blog about this as well, so I'll get one of the staff members to pop in the blog that details even in more depth each of these seating arrangements. So this was one of my favourite ones actually, U-shapes, and obviously based on how many kids you've got in the class will depend on whether this is going to work, but often having the whiteboard at the front and the two U-shapes is fantastic for if you do a lot of whole class discussions. If you're often, when the kids go to the desk, you are going to have discussions as well as independent work. Students can easily see their classmates and interact with them. And each desk is also easily accessible for you if you need to come up to each of the students and talk to them while they're working. Another traditional one, groups of 6 or groups of however many you might have. This is good for smaller group work. So if a lot of the time you do more small group work at the desks, and it's also great for group points. So if that's a classroom management tool that you like to do in the classroom or you're thinking about doing, obviously it's a lot easier when they're actually in groups to do that sort of giving them team points for doing the right thing. The double E, so this is good if you've got sort of a smaller classroom. It does open up a few small carpet areas in between each of the sections in the E's. And again, this is one where most of the students are quite easily accessible by the teacher as well, and you can see all of them. If you've got a few students that need to face the whiteboard because of different reasons, you've got that option there as well. Also, if any of these work for you, I'd love to know why they worked for you as well. So share some stories in the comments or the Q&A section, or if you've got other ideas for seating arrangements, just pop a little, pop it in the Q&A function. That'd be great. Okay, mini U's. So obviously similar to the groups of 6. The benefit of this one is that the teacher can actually sit in each of the little U's and talk to each of the small groups as well. So not only can you do sort of one-to-one feedback with a student, you can also do it in a smaller group. and it just makes it easy because the students are they're just sort of sitting around you then. So that's a great aspect of this seating arrangement, as well as obviously they're in groups, so you can do the group points as well. Traditional rows, we're all, I don't know, there's lots of teachers who love to do the traditional rows. That's what works best. All students are facing the whiteboard, easy to get to each student. If they're just going to be doing a lot of independent work, then having them face, and they have to see, it's easier for them to see the whiteboard. It's definitely one that may work for your classroom and for your students. So again, it's just what works for you, what works for your students. Every single year, a different arrangement worked for me based on the kids I had in my class. And then of course, combination seating. So this can, once you've tried out a few things and you think, oh, actually these kids, like using some U shapes for the students who you feel like you're going to have to sit down and support a lot more during independent work. So yeah, using a combination of the different seating arrangements might be something that would work for you as well. And then of course, we've got flexible seating if this is something that you're interested in. We have a couple of blogs. I'll get the staff members to share in the Q&A function of how flexible seating can work. There's a great blog in there about how a teacher actually worked with her class to create the best seating arrangements for them, and they worked together and created a plan about how they were going to find the flexible seating options. And it's a really interesting case study about flexible seating. I've seen a lot of teachers who use both. They have the traditional seating as well as some flexible seating arrangements as well, and the students move around. Some students do better with flexible seating, others do better with the sort of traditional style of seating. So we've got some really fantastic flexible seating poster rules as well, because I know that's something that's a bit tricky, is making sure the students know how to behave rather than getting so excited about the different flexible seating arrangements. So I'll get one of the staff members to share those posters as well in the Q&A function if you are thinking about flexible seating and if that's something that you might be considering in your classroom. Okay, then lighting. Obviously, classroom lighting can affect the students' mood, their behaviour, and ultimately how they learn. Natural light is the best for learning. We sort of know that, but it's just being mindful of that when you walk into a classroom. I know it can be super easy, particularly if you don't have much space to set up classroom displays, to put posters on the window. Try not to do that, because that natural lighting that's coming in is going to really affect how your classroom runs. Considering where that natural light is and whether you're going to put the student desks on that side of the classroom if you do have a bigger space. It's just sort of looking at the classroom you're in. I know I walked into one classroom and I had a beautiful, one whole side was windows, but it had so many trees, which was lovely. And I remember we had the PNC did a garden cleanup, and I asked them just to trim back some of those branches from the trees, and it was incredible how different it was just letting a little bit of natural light in. So when you're setting up your classroom, just think about that and think about where any natural light might be coming from. I know it's difficult because sometimes there's not much, but if you do have access to that natural light coming through the windows, try and really amplify that and not cover it up too much. Okay, number 4, sorting, containment and labels. One of my favourite things to do. There's always so much stuff in your classroom. Stuff is the best word I can think of right now. And again, having a system in place will make it super easy for you and the kids to keep the space organised if you have a system in place. So after you've done the plan, you've got your desks all set up, you've thought about the lighting, you've also thought about the bigger areas and you've got them all set up. Now it's all about sorting those maths manipulatives, the games, the books, the spare supplies, the art supplies, the blocks, the Play-Doh. In an early years classroom, you have a lot more. But in the upper years classroom as well, you still have lots of these things that need a place. If you don't have that system in place, you're going to end up with a super messy classroom. And I know even if you've got a system, sometimes it can get messy. We're working with kids here, but I've just put in there, take a leaf out of the home edit show. I wrote a blog about, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, go and have a look. But warning, you will end up creating systems at home and in your classroom as well, but they work. I'll get one of the staff members to share that blog as well in the comments so you can have a little bit of a look through. But basically, what they say to do is so that you edit, get everything out of the space. So if this is your storeroom that you're going to be organising a system for, if you don't have a storeroom, some of us don't have access to storerooms. So it might just be the different shelves and things that you've got in your classroom. Take everything out of the space and categorise. So group the items based on, are they games? Put the piles of books together. Put all your maths manipulatives get together. Put your Play-Doh together. Put your pencils together. So categorise the items and put the items in containers and label. So and you could you don't have to go out and buy heaps of containers. You could use shoe boxes, or I used to use the boxes that photocopy. I used to get the photocopy ladies to save the boxes that the paper came in. They were quite good sizes, and that was great for art supplies. So I'd put, all of my crepe paper went in one box, and I'd put a little label on that. All of my feathers and pom-poms and all those sorts of things would go in another box. It just made it super easy. When I needed to get things out, I knew where they were. And I just put there, when everything has a place, it helps keep things tidy. I'm not promising that your classroom is going to be tidy every single day, but it definitely helps. I'd love to know if you have seen the home edit show. And if you haven't, you need to go watch it. Okay, so I've got a few photos of some ideas of things that you could do. So you can use our tray labels to keep things organised. So once you've sorted them into containers, and you need to label them, because there's no point in putting them into containers and not labelling them. If you're using clear boxes, it's often easy to see what's in them, but you might not be. So using labels definitely helps. So I'll get one of our staff members to share our tray label. Mainly our tray labels are the best size for labelling. So I'll get them to share that collection with you guys now. This is a beautiful photo from an Instagram page called Clean Organised Mama. She talks about more at home, but this definitely works in the classroom. And clear containers are fantastic to keep stock levels. So you can see whether you need to get your crayon supplies running low, or your paints are running low, or you need to get some more Play-Doh. It's just easy to see what you have and whether you need to purchase anything else. I really loved this one as well for younger year levels, using actual pictures of the items. You could put, if you're they're learning to read, you could put the word on the other side as well, so they could flip it. But initially, having those photos is really going to cement and I guess push them to put the right items back in the right baskets, rather than them just chucking it all in the bottom baskets. This has got the images, and they know exactly where things go. So I really loved that little tip from that Instagram page. Okay, that's it on getting things organised. Now on to classroom displays, which is always super, super fun. And I'm sure you've all got fantastic ideas in terms of what displays you're thinking of putting into your classroom. Just a few little tips and things that I've learnt along the way when it comes to classroom displays. Obviously, and many of you already know, too many words and images can be distracting and overwhelming for the students. So just bearing that in mind, it's really easy to get super excited and wanted to cover every single space in the classroom. I've been there, I've done it before, but it just meant that I didn't have enough space to show off the student work. And some of them were probably more just to make an area look pretty, which is still okay. It's still okay, but it's really important that the majority of the space you use in the classroom is for student work and purposeful displays that are going to help the students during their learning. So yeah, my next point there was make sure you save space for student work to decorate the classroom. You can still cover a cork board with some nice brightly coloured wrapping paper, put a nice border around it, and maybe put a banner at the top, which might be for student work. You can still make a display look nice, but leaving that space so you can put student work up or put up things that are going to help during the topics that you'll be teaching in that term. Another tip is to display at eye height, particularly for little learners. So I know myself, I used to put the alphabet at the top of a whiteboard. It was just the best space for it. But now I think about it, and now I'm learning a lot more about classroom displays. It's not really accessible. Like, it might be okay for you, but when the little kids are sitting in their desk, it's a little bit high for them. So making sure it's accessible and it's at their eye level means that they'll be able to really use that display during their learning a lot better. Prioritise front of classroom for displays to reinforce learning. So of course, for students sitting here, you want the classroom displays that they really are going to need during their time at their desks at the front, so they don't have to be turning around too much. Of course, I know a lot of us are probably limited in terms of where you can display things. So having like little, I'm not sure if you've seen the little IKEA frames. It's an IKEA hack. I'll get one of the staff members to share the blog about them, and we've got a few little posters that fit in there as well. But that could actually go on the desk as well if you're struggling to find space to put your classroom displays. It's a little frame, and you can use some little silver rings and put mini posters there, and they can flip each of the little posters that they might want to have access to during their learning. So that's another super cool idea if you are struggling with class walls to display those really, really important classroom displays. And then another tip there is to use material or wrapping paper to cover your pin boards. Some of us might come in and we've got beautiful pin boards, but I know when I walked into a lot of my classrooms, the pin boards were very old, and you can easily jazz them up just with some cheap wrapping paper. Just use some brightly coloured wrapping paper on the backboard, and then we've got lots of our classroom theme packs include lost what they're called, the little borders that go around the edge. So you can print them out and stick that around the edge of your display as well. And you could also use material, which is a really great idea because you can reuse that material every single year as well, rather than the wrapping paper will often get ripped. But it is obviously a cheaper option. All right, I've just popped in there to consider a theme pack. So if you are new to teaching, or you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what things you might want to display, a theme pack has got sort of one of our theme packs has everything you need, really. We've got lots of different super cute themes. This is our cactus and llama theme pack. I remember one of our members requested this a couple of years ago, and I thought, cactus and llama, how bizarre. But one of our designers just went crazy, and it's actually one of my favorite themes now. It's super cute. So within our classroom theme packs, we have heaps. This is just a few of the things. We have display banners that you can put at the top of your displays, hundreds charts, birthday charts, border trimmers, that's what I was thinking of before. Border trimmers for your displays, letter and numbering bunting, cutout decorations, desk plates, name tags, job charts, tray labels. So yeah, everything that you might need when you're starting from scratch when setting up a classroom is included in these theme packs. So one of the team members will drop the link for all the different themes that we have in the comments section now. Another display that I would always include, whether it be a birthday display, which we have heaps of. I'll get one of the staff members to drop the birthday displays. I think I've got a blog actually. It's the blog would be better, and it's got a few different really cute birthday displays, or a gorgeous door display, just something where the students can see their name. Coming into your classroom and seeing their name is going to really cement that welcoming feeling into the classroom. So yes, whether it's cute door display. I'll get one of the staff members to share these door displays in the comments section, as well as the birthday displays. One or the other, or both, if you've got the space. Obviously, the door display is super cute because when they sort of first enter, they can see these are really cute because you can actually put their photos in, or you can use their names, obviously, but just makes them feel welcome when they first come in. So that was always one display I made sure I had up ready to go. Sometimes I had nothing else but either a birthday display or a door display with their names on it. Or even just a welcome sign, which you can get from our classroom theme packs and use the name tags and just put their names on it on the door is another way you can really start the year off really well by welcoming them in so they can see their name. They can see, oh, this is my classroom. I'm part of this team. It was always one display I made sure I had up. Oh, love this hack as well. I think this is my last slide for now. I'd also have a display where student work would always be. I think a lot of people call them a wow wall. You could just call it, student work, or look what we've created. You can get really creative with what you might call it. But I thought this is a really cute hack because this teacher has used just a brightly coloured sheet with the student's name on it, and then she's used a thumbtack, which is hot glued to a peg, which you then stick onto the pinboard, and then it's super easy to change over the student work. You'll often be changing over that student work, and sometimes I'd set it up, and because I had it set up beautifully and it was all thumbtacked in, I often wouldn't change the display for quite some time. I'd have all this great student work I wanted to show off. But with this, you could even just keep adding the student work over the top, so it could almost be a pile of their work on the wow wall. But yeah, I just think this is a really clever hack and something that I would have appreciated having set up in the classroom, because it would have meant that it would just be super easy to change over the student work on those wow walls or student work displays. So I had to include that hack in here. All right, so they're all the different things that I would go through when setting up my classroom. Write yourself a checklist. This webinar will be recorded and it will be available on our website or YouTube. So if this is perhaps a little bit too early for you and you haven't really thought about this, you can come back and you can sort of fast forward through the bits that you maybe knew about, or if you want to get the first sort of steps or the first headings that I went through when I'd go into the classroom, certainly come back and have a look at this webinar for any of the things that you might think, oh, that's a good idea, I might try that in the classroom. All right, what I might do now is I'm going to go to our website and just show you how to use our display banners. So if I just search here, display banners, and you'll see all of the different banners that we have here available. So there's some that already have the words in them, and there's some where you can actually write in your words, whether maybe you want to create a banner that says wow work, or perhaps it's your English display board. It's always going to be your English display board and you want to put a banner up. You can go in and use one of our banners and write in those headings. I'm just going to show you how to easily print these banners over multiple pages, because it can get a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go to this growth affirmation display banner because I think it's super cute. Today is a day for growth. And what you're going to want to do is we've got an option for black and white here if you want to color it, if you want to print it on colored paper. If you don't have access to a color printer, that's one option. I am going to print the color version, so I'm going to download that. And you're going to want to go into your downloads and open that up as a PDF. Now what you'll see here is the banner, and if you tried to print this now just how it is, it would print just on one A4 page and it'd be super skinny. But you want to print this over multiple pages, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So you'll go File and you'll go Print. Okay, so this is where you will probably have, this is what it'll look like. Even if you just change that to landscape, it's still just going to print on one page. You don't want that. You want to go to poster. And if you can see over here on the, it sort of shows you what it's going to print. There's little dotted lines down. So this would print over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, but it would print portrait. You want to go over to tile scale and you want to bring that back down to, say, let's try 96%. So that's still printing over portrait. So we'll bring it down to 93. So this is all depending on your printer settings. Okay, so that 93% has meant, you can see here it's changed it to 3 pages landscape, and it's got the dotted line so it can show you those 3 pages. If you then printed that, go down and print. Here's one I prepared earlier. It's actually going to then print it over the 3 pages, then you can stick it together to create your banner. Okay, so that's a super easy way, that sort of some things that you could do now if you're thinking about displays and what they might be called. You could go in and download some of those displays and have them printed, ready to go. I wouldn't necessarily, I've printed this on thicker paper. I wouldn't necessarily laminate. We try not to encourage laminating, obviously, for the environment. So, and a display banner is going to be up and it's going to stay up. It's not like students are going to be handling it. So I would just print it on thicker paper and then pop it up on your display, and then it will keep really well. Okay. One last thing, so the tray labels, I've spoken quite a bit about the tray labels as well. So if you search tray labels and go to our collection, again, here's all of our tray labels that you can have access to. And you can then, in our studio function, you can type out different labels that way. And finally, our classroom theme packs. You can see all of the different themes and topics we have there for classroom theme packs. If you then click on one of them, you'll have the list of things that is available in this classroom theme pack. So you can go through and just pick sort of the ones that you might like to use in your classroom. This is the gorgeous affirmations poster classroom theme pack, which would go beautifully with this banner that we've created. Today is a day for growth. Yeah, just a beautiful, really beautiful design. You can go through and see what are some things. The job charts, obviously it's great to have a job chart as well set up. So definitely a place to go to if you're starting from scratch and you're looking for some really nice displays to put into your classroom. All right, I think that's us done. I think I've taken up a lot of your time. Hopefully that's been helpful. I really hope that your year starts off well. You've got this, we're behind you. It's another school year. You're just super amazing. Please check in on our Instagram page or on our Facebook group, Teacher Talk, if you are having, if you've got some questions about setting up your classroom, or you just want to share how you're going. Our Instagram page and Teacher Talk Facebook group is a great place to go, where we've got a group of supportive teachers on there having a chat about how they're going. As I said earlier, this webinar has been recorded and it will be emailed to you. All the best for a fantastic year, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks for joining.